Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take a monumental stack of sources, articles, research, personal notes, and distill it into the knowledge you need right now, delivered with maximum impact.
That's right. You, the learner, are here for that shortcut, for the deep insight.
And today, our mission is, it's pure transformation. We aren't focusing on historical facts or economic data.
No, not at all. Today we are diving deep into language acquisition. We have this just compelling collection of sources outlining 12 daily, highly practical, and genuinely fun activities.
Okay, let's unpack this a little. The goal isn't just to learn a few more vocabulary words. I mean, the mission statement for this deep dive is pretty clear.
It is.
We're looking for creative, consistent pathways to build genuine fluency.
Yes.
The kind of fluency that transforms your skill set and goes, way beyond the 5 minutes you might spend tapping an icon on a language app before you forget about it.
Absolutely. That's the key difference. We need to move beyond just passive recognition, where you know a word when you see it, to active, confident application,
Where you can actually use it.
where you can spontaneously use that word in a conversation or a high-pressure situation. So today, we're going to analyze these sources and really highlight the psychological and the linguistic mechanisms that make these 12 activities so impactful.
And we've got a structure for this, right?
We do. We've organized them into 4 major approaches. First, using cultural immersion, then leveraging technology. After that, engaging in high-commitment challenges, and finally, refining literacy and personal expression.
That structure sounds perfect. Let's jump right in with what seems like the most visceral, sensory, and honestly, probably the most delicious approach, the cultural immersion approach.
I love that we're starting here.
Me too. I mean, it's great that the very first set of tips grounds language practice in something every single one of us has to do every day. Eat.
Right.
So tip number 1 is to follow chefs and recipes in the target language.
And what's so fascinating here, is that the benefit is not just about learning how to say chicken or pasta.
Yeah.
The sources really stress that this activity provides an immediate deep dive into the very fabric of the culture. You're learning about the cuisine, the typical diet, seasonal ingredients, the eating habits.
All of it.
Language is just so intrinsically linked to how people live, how they survive, and what they share socially. And food is, it's the most fundamental part of that.
It really is. And it makes the vocabulary stick in a way a flashcard never, ever could. When you're in the kitchen, you're not just memorizing the word for whisk or baste.
You're doing it.
You are physically holding the object. You're performing the action while listening to the instructions. And this is so crucial because it engages what's called procedural memory.
The muscle memory, essentially.
Exactly. That word becomes linked to a kinetic action, which means you can pull it out so much faster and more reliably when you need to use it actively. You're not relying on that brittle semantic memory that you get from textbook study.
And the practical application that the sources suggested is just brilliant. It's not just watch one video.
No, it's a project.
It's a whole project. Plan an entire week of dinners from that specific culture. You have to read the recipe, shop for the ingredients, which, as you said, links directly to another tip we'll get to, and then actively watch and follow the videos.
You're creating this little self-contained low-pressure immersion lab right in your own kitchen.
A language lab in the kitchen? I love it.
And for those of you specifically focusing on English, the sources provide some incredibly detailed suggestions for chefs, depending on the accent you want to pursue, which is an angle most learners just completely overlook.
Oh, completely. Accent is so often just pushed to the side in favor of pure grammar, but your accent choice, it deeply affects comprehension and, frankly, social acceptability.
So for those seeking that classic RP, the received pronunciation accent, who do they recommend?
The source specifically recommends Nigella Lawson. And RP, for anyone who doesn't know, it's often characterized as the standard sort of non-regional accent of educated English speakers in England. It's what broadcasters used to use.
It's very clear.
It's a very clear, often lyrical accent. And the source noted her attractive voice and beautiful accent, which just underscores that choosing pleasant input makes daily practice something you actually want to do.
Okay, so that's the classic clear accent.
Yeah.
But what if you want something a bit more I don't know, real world?
Well, then you have the more informal group-based content. The source suggests a channel called Sorted Food.
Oh, I know them.
Yeah, four guys who create these really great recipe videos. And this is so important because it exposes you to casual, conversational British English. You hear slang, interruption patterns, fast, natural speech rates.
Stuff that formal study materials just never capture.
Never. It's authentic, peer-level interaction. And then for a touch more regional flavor, because English isn't just one accent, there's Jamie Oliver.
Right, he's noted for having a little bit more Cockney in his accent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cockney is traditionally associated with the working class of East London, and it has these really distinct vowel sounds and intonation. Hearing this helps train your ear to decode a much wider range of real-world English.
And then, of course, for the learners who, I guess, thrive under high-intensity pressure.
And enjoy a high-effective filter, yes.
There is the humorous mention of Gordon Ramsay if you enjoy someone shouting at you.
Which, some people might. But it's so important to recognize that choosing your input, whether it's the calming RP of Lawson, the collaborative banter of Sorted Food, or the high-energy dialect of Oliver, is crucial for shaping your own desired output.
You're intentionally building your auditory library.
You are. It transforms passive viewing into active accent and intonation training.
So that makes the kitchen a classroom. But what about taking the class outside? Let's pivot from the kitchen at home to the high-stakes environment of a restaurant.
Right. Tip number 4.
It's about eating in authentic restaurants, but with a challenge. You can't just go and order in English. You have to warn the staff beforehand that you want to do everything in the foreign language.
This is such a great idea. It's a deliberate, high-stakes linguistic challenge. By asking the staff first, you're essentially setting up a social contract.
Right. You're not just being a difficult customer.
Exactly. You are actively seeking correction in practice, but you're mitigating that risk of just annoying a busy waiter because you've pre-warned them. They become, in that moment, spontaneous native tutors for the duration of your meal.
But I have to push back a little here. For you, the learner, isn't there a really high risk of embarrassing yourself? I mean, what if you panic or you just forget a basic word when the pressure is on to order?
That is the crucial point, and that's the core benefit. Learning thrives under what you could call controlled duress. That initial fear of embarrassment, that high effective filter, that's exactly what slows people down.
It's the wall everyone hits.
It is. By intentionally putting yourself in this situation, you train your brain to manage that pressure. You accept that you will make mistakes, and you convert that stress into a learning opportunity.
And the sources say this actually works, that staff will go along with it.
It says they're highly likely to want to help, provided the restaurant isn't totally swamped. They're often flattered by the effort.
The source material included this fantastic anecdote about it in London. The hosts would go to a Spanish restaurant with a friend who was also learning, and they'd ask the waiters,
What was the line? Just pretend we're in Spain.
"Yeah, would you mind if we did everything in Spanish today? Just pretend we're in Spain." And the waiters reportedly loved it. It wasn't just tolerance. It was like an enthusiastic cultural exchange.
That element of a fun exchange is the motivational secret. It stops feeling like a stressful test and starts feeling like a shared cultural experience.
So the call to action for you, the learner, is to seek out those local cultural spots, that specific Italian trattoria, that authentic Polish diner, and find a partner in crime to make a whole fun evening of it.
Yes. Shared accountability and a reduced pressure environment. And that multiplies the learning benefit exponentially.
So we have cooking at home, which is tip 1, and high-stakes dining out, tip 4, and linking them together is tip 7, shopping in foreign supermarkets.
This is specific tactical utility at its best. It's incredibly valuable for languages that are associated with very specific diets or ingredients that aren't globally common.
Like what, specifically?
Well, think about the need for specialized ingredients in, say, Chinese, Polish, Arabic, or Indian cuisine. That often results in these dedicated ethnic sections or even entire supermarkets in larger cities.
And this is where you acquire that niche, specialized vocabulary that a standard beginner's course would never, ever touch.
Never. You take your phone translator or a dictionary, you browse, and you pick up words for specific spices, unique cuts of meat, traditional dairy products.
The names.
Snack names. You might learn 5 different ways to say flour, depending on whether you're looking for cake flour or semolina.
And here's the mechanism for fluency, right? It's anchoring that abstract word to a tangible, physical product on a shelf.
Exactly. Complete with packaging, maybe origin information, cooking suggestions, all in the target language. When you later need to use that word, your brain associates it with the visual memory of the packaging and its location in the store, not just a definition on a list.
And you can easily integrate this weekly. You gather the ingredients for your cultural meal, and then you execute tip 1, the cooking. It creates this powerful self-sustaining loop.
It's a perfect loop. You
Yeah.
shop, you read labels, you cook, you follow instructions, you eat, and maybe you even discuss the meal using the new vocabulary at that restaurant from tip 4.
You're moving language acquisition from passive memorization to this active, real-world context.
You're effectively connecting language acquisition to the fundamental human necessity of sustenance. That immersion provides the context and prioritization that textbooks just cannot replicate. It's the difference between knowing the word for rice and knowing the names and uses of 7 different types of rice noodles.
A fantastic summation of how the world outside the classroom can become your greatest teacher. So, that strong connection to the physical world is wonderful, but in modern life, let's be honest, we spend a majority of our time behind a screen.
Sadly, yes.
How do we achieve that same utility when we're stuck behind a screen? That brings us neatly into how we can hack our digital world. Technology is often seen as the ultimate distraction, but this deep dive shows how it can be flipped into a tool for daily, forced immersion.
And let's start with the most immediate change. Tip 5, setting devices to the target language.
This one sounds scary.
It is a little, but it's the easiest, lowest cost, but maybe the most disruptive method you can employ immediately. We are talking about setting your TV, your phone, your iPad, your laptop, and critically, your smart assistants like Alexa or Google Home entirely to the target language.
The sources highlight how instant that daily practice is. Just asking Alexa or Google Home for the weather in the morning is instant, low-stakes practice.
A tiny little win to start your day. Alexa, what is the weather like? But delivered in Spanish or French or German, you get immediate, consistent audio input, and you're forced to formulate a basic command.
But the unexpected benefit is much more profound. And this speaks to the core mechanism of fluency. It's about acquiring random tech vocabulary and forcing, what was the term?
Cognitive load. If you switch your operating system to the foreign language, eventually you will encounter a problem. A software update fails, a network setting needs adjusting, or you need to find a specific menu option.
And you're suddenly forced to deal with the error messages and the troubleshooting process entirely in the foreign language.
Yes, and that sounds genuinely frustrating, and I bet your first instinct would be to immediately switch the language back just to fix the problem quickly.
100%.
Precisely.
Right.
And that frustration is the point. The source material notes that this initial friction is necessary. This forced immersion dealing with a critical problem solely in the new language is a massive confidence builder and a neurological shortcut.
How so?
Your brain cannot default to the easy route, which is your native language. It is forced to build new neural pathways under duress. You acquire the meta-language of computing words like reboot, preferences, save, dialog box, and you gain confidence by successfully navigating a real challenge.
It's a digital language bootcamp where success or failure is tied to solving a real-world, albeit digital, problem.
Perfectly put.
That connection between forced problem-solving and confidence is key. Okay, now tip 11 focuses on transforming our scrolling habits, following native speakers on social media.
This is the anti-distraction strategy that turns mindless scrolling into structured input. Instead of abandoning social media, which is, let's face it, unrealistic for most of us,
Very unrealistic.
you curate your feed. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, so it's filled only with content, captions, and daily stories in the target language.
It's genius because it utilizes our existing interests. If you love fashion, you follow French fashion bloggers. If you're a history buff, you follow native Spanish historians on YouTube. Your daily mindless scrolling now develops natural organic skills without feeling like work.
And the passive exposure here is immense, particularly to colloquial language. You're reading captions and listening to short daily stories, which are often packed with slang, idioms, shortened phrases, the language that real people actually use.
It helps you develop a high-speed recognition ability.
It does. However, tip 11 is largely passive consumption, which is effective for input, but it has to be balanced with active output. And that brings us to tip 3, the power of Reddit.
The sources single out Reddit as an exceptionally valuable language learning tool, especially for English, but it works for any language with a strong presence there.
And for anyone unfamiliar, Reddit is just this massive network of communities called subreddits based on people's hyper-specific interests.
Hyper-specific is the word.
It really is. And what's crucial about Reddit is the quality factor and the sheer volume of interaction. The source notes that the general level of vocabulary, grammar, and overall writing quality is perceived as quite high in many subreddits.
Why is that, do you think?
Well, they're often moderated by highly literate native speakers who expect clear communication. I think if you compare the written interaction there to, say, the comment sections on a general news site, you often find a much higher standard of sophisticated communication. It demands better structure and logic.
And the interaction benefits are enormous. Users are there to communicate, to debate, to share opinions on these niche topics.
It's a dynamic, enormous environment. You get news content, specialized hobby discussions, funny content, and even personal sharing, like that cute content sharing pictures of a dog that the source anecdote mentions.
This feels like the transition point, then, from passive reading to active creation.
It absolutely is. The recommended action is to visit Reddit once a day, find subreddits that align with your deepest interests, and then make a post or a comment. You are forced to synthesize your thoughts and commit them to writing, and you get immediate feedback from a large community of native speakers.
So this sounds like a great way to acquire vocabulary that's specific to your job or your hobby language that would just never appear in a general curriculum.
Exactly. If you're learning German and you're interested in, I don't know, vintage camera repair, there is a subreddit for that, and you will learn the precise technical German required for that field.
Plus, because users often engage in these detailed debates, you learn how to structure complex arguments, how to use connecting phrases, how to express nuance.
All vital for advanced fluency. So you have this perfect trio: the forced digital engagement of tip 5, making you solve problems. Then the passive organic input of tip 11, filling your feeds with native colloquial content.
And then the active participation required by Reddit, forcing you to produce written language and engage in debate.
That combination is exceptionally potent. Tip 3, Reddit, forces you to actively synthesize your thoughts and articulate them in a high-quality written form, which is a major bottleneck for so many learners. This is where fluency is truly forged, in the act of responding, arguing, and sharing, not just consuming.
The only warning the source provided was that Reddit can be highly addictive.
A language learning addiction, as you said earlier, is probably a good problem to have. If it ensures sustained daily practice and high-quality exposure, then it's a distraction we should embrace. The crucial thing is turning screen time into skill time.
Right. We've established that consistency is the key nutrient for language evolution. Now we're moving into strategies that require more planning and significant daily commitment, but that promise rapid, high-impact skill acquisition.
These are the big ones.
They are.
Yeah.
Let's look at the structured, high-accountability approach first, with tip 2, taking a daily language challenge.
The source material is very clear here. While a 5-minute app session or weekly language lessons are helpful, they often lead to plateaus or just slow, inconsistent progress.
They do, yeah.
A dedicated, structured daily challenge provides the external motivation and high impact that's necessary to break through those walls.
And the specific example given in the source is the Lingoda Marathon, which is described as a really motivating language study challenge built around intensive daily class attendance. Let's break down the structure, because the specific logistics here are crucial for you, the learner, to understand the level of commitment.
Okay, so this challenge is designed to enforce consistency. It requires participation in an agreed number of group classes each month. There are 2 tiers.
Right, the full and the half.
The full marathon, which requires 30 classes over 3 months, and the half marathon, which requires 15 classes over 3 months. This structure immediately addresses that issue of inconsistency.
And the sources emphasize a critical rule. You can only take 1 class per day.
Which is so smart.
It is. You can't just binge study 5 classes on a Saturday and then ignore it for the rest of the week. This rule is what enforces the daily habit, which is the secret sauce to fluency.
And the marathon offers English, French, German, Spanish, and business English with classes for every level. So it's applicable whether you're a complete beginner or you're already advanced. But what truly elevates this above a standard subscription, though, are the incentives.
This is where it gets really interesting. Behavioral economics meets language learning.
That's a great way to put it. It's all about financial accountability. Tell us about the refund mechanism.
Okay, so if you successfully complete the full marathon requirements, attending all 30 classes, you get a 100% refund on your tuition fees. Completing the half marathon earns you a 50% refund.
This taps into that powerful psychological concept of loss aversion. The sources noted that thousands have participated, and for many, the potential loss of that large refund is a far greater motivator to show up daily than the abstract promise of eventual fluency.
It's brilliant. The fear of losing the money you already paid is a stronger motivator than the desire to gain knowledge. But there are strict rules, right? And the source emphasizes knowing them down to the letter.
Oh, absolutely strict. You must show up on time for every single class you booked, and you must actively participate. The source even cites testimonials from previous graduates who stress that checking the terms and conditions is the absolute key to success.
So if you miss a class, or you just forget to book one, what happens?
You can continue the course and finish the learning, but you immediately forfeit your qualification for the refund. This zero-tolerance policy forces total dedication.
And there's an initial hurdle as well.
Right.
A non-refundable entry fee of €49, which gets taken off the first month's subscription. And there's a discount code mentioned.
Right. The code is TALK5, which gives a €10 discount on that entry fee. These small, specific details are the tactical knowledge you need to engage with this high-commitment strategy successfully.
It just creates this fantastic combination of external pressure, the fixed schedule with a tutor and classmates, and that powerful financial motivation.
It pushes you past that initial resistance of daily practice. It's like training for an actual marathon. You need the schedule and the deadline to force you into action when your motivation inevitably wanes.
So that's the structured high accountability model. Now let's compare that to tip 8, making your next holiday a language course. This is the total immersion model, more like chaos rather than structure.
This is the high-cost, high-reward approach. The beauty of this model is that it forces constant high-stakes application. You're immersed in the culture where language isn't an academic pursuit, but a tool for immediate survival and social engagement.
The sources included a really resonant personal anecdote here. The host speaker recounted how, instead of taking a standard one-week party holiday to Ibiza or Greece, they chose a 3-week immersion trip to Italy.
And they optimize for cost, right? Staying in a room in a local flat, booking cheap flights, but committing to a half-day language course every single day.
Exactly. And the impact was immediate and massive. The amount of Italian learned in those 3 weeks was described as incredible.
And that rapid acquisition happens because the brain is forced to process all input in the target language, from ordering coffee and negotiating prices to asking for directions and handling minor bureaucratic issues.
Yeah.
Every interaction, every sign, every snippet of overheard conversation is practice.
You move past the translation phase and you start thinking directly in the language.
That's the goal.
And the daily connection, which ties us back to our theme of sustainable daily practice after the trip, came from the people they met there. The lasting benefit wasn't just the course. It was keeping in touch via daily WhatsApp chats in the native language.
And here's where we circle back to tech. The sources highlight the immense advantage of using voice notes in these daily chats.
Oh, this is such a good tip.
It's fantastic. Voice notes are a perfect low-pressure rehearsal tool. They give you time to formulate your thought, practice your pronunciation, and even re-record the message if you spot a mistake, all before you hit send.
It's a silent self-correction. And then when your native friend replies, you can listen to their response multiple times. You can slow it down if you need to repeat bits. It's just invaluable for familiarizing yourself with natural speech cadence and intonation patterns without the pressure of having to respond instantly.
That ability to pause and repeat is the critical difference between voice notes and face-to-face conversation. It provides the repetition you need for mastery, but in a genuinely social context.
Now, the travel option is certainly more expensive, but the anecdote about getting a one-week language course in Spain as a joint Christmas and birthday present shows that this can be framed as a long-term goal. It's a focused investment, not a casual expense.
Exactly. So whether it's through the financially accountable structure of the marathon or the total chaos of cultural immersion, both models work. They work by creating accountability and forcing daily, sustained exposure. The outcome is the same. Rapid skill evolution that you simply cannot achieve by studying only an hour a week.
We've covered immersion through movement and technology. Let's shift focus now to techniques that build literacy, refine comprehension, and develop natural expression. This starts with reading input through tip 9, reading blogs in another language.
Right. When learners decide to read in a new language, they often choose really formal content news articles, maybe classic literature. But the source points out that blogs offer this distinct, practical advantage.
Which is that they're generally written in a colloquial fashion.
Yes. They're written as if the blogger is talking directly to a friend. This is fantastic for picking up colloquial phrases, slang, phrasal verbs, and just understanding the natural, informal rhythm of how a native speaker actually talks and writes.
You're learning the language of the street and the kitchen table, not just the language of the press release.
And the specific utility here is in acquiring the correct register. Colloquial language helps you sound less like a textbook and more like a natural speaker. And crucially, for sustainability, the content is already tailored to your specific interests.
You're learning about your hobby knitting, finance, hiking, while simultaneously improving your language skills. It instantly turns a potentially difficult chore into a source of genuine entertainment.
Exactly. And building on that reading strategy, tip 10 is one of those highly effective yet frequently overlooked ideas, reading a translation of your favorite book.
This one feels like a real aha moment. It's such an obvious but brilliant idea.
It's pure linguistic efficiency. Since you already know the general storyline, you're familiar with the main characters, you understand the narrative beats. You can acquire new vocabulary and understand complex sentence structures without the constant paralyzing frustration of having to look up every third word.
The sources explain that familiarity with the plot frees up your cognitive resources. So instead of using mental energy to figure out what happens next, you can focus all that energy on understanding how the language is being used to tell the story.
And the personal example of using Harry Potter in Spanish is perfect.
Right.
The host speaker noted that it took longer, but it felt deeply satisfying because the context carried the meaning.
Right. If you know that Harry just got into trouble with Snape, and the sentence describes an angry reaction using a new verb, you can infer that verb means to sneer or to rebuke without breaking your reading flow.
You are internalizing vocabulary naturally, not through forced memorization.
And beyond just vocabulary, this method really helps with sentence structure and storytelling skills. By consuming a narrative you already love, you absorb how complex ideas, descriptions of magic, emotional turmoil, political conspiracy are constructed and expressed naturally in the target language.
Okay, so we've covered consuming authentic language through blogs and known narratives. Now we pivot to producing it with tip 12, starting a private blog or diary.
This is all about low-stakes, high-volume writing practice. The idea is simple. Write about your day, your thoughts, your feelings, all in the target language.
And the sources strongly emphasize the benefits of absolute privacy here. The host speaker kept their diary 100% private, making the critical decision not to seek external correction.
Why is that so important?
Because it removes the fear of judgment, which is the #1 barrier to production. The primary benefit was being able to look back over time to see the evolution of their skills, how they initially struggled to express certain ideas, and how their grammar and vocabulary gradually improved.
That tracking of progress provides powerful self-motivation. But the sources identified an even deeper psychological benefit regarding emotional expression.
Yes, writing down emotional content, frustration, joy, sadness, ambition in the foreign language makes it significantly easier to express those same complex feelings verbally later on.
How does that work?
When you write, you're training your brain to bypass the internal translator that usually tries to convert the emotion from your native tongue. You're creating direct neural pathways between the feeling itself and the words of the new language.
So if you're trying to tell your Spanish-speaking friend that you are incredibly excited about a new job, you've already practiced articulating that precise emotional state in the silent, safe space of your diary.
Which makes the verbal delivery much more fluid and authentic. So we can connect all three of these tips: reading blogs, reading familiar books, and writing privately as this powerful, self-correcting fluency loop.
A fluency loop. I like that.
You recognize natural colloquial patterns in blogs, which helps you produce more natural, fluid text in a private diary, which in turn accelerates your overall fluency beyond just formal grammar rules. You move from recognizing native language patterns to being able to produce them spontaneously.
We've covered the culinary, the digital, the academic, and the literary approaches. Let's dedicate a moment to the ultimate wild card, something that's pure fun and sneaks language learning into a completely different activity. Tip 6. Playing online multiplayer games on foreign servers.
This is immersion through play, and it leverages the unique social structure of gaming. The learner specifically chooses servers populated by native speakers of the target language, often requiring voice chat for coordination.
You mean like in those massive multiplayer online role-playing games or first-person shooters?
Exactly those. And the source material highlighted a truly fascinating, unexpected benefit here. Gamers can be fiercely helpful in a team context, and some of the best English students cited in the sources had learned their excellent practical pronunciation and, surprisingly, their strangest vocabulary entirely through gaming.
The mechanism is simple but powerful, isn't it? The primary goal is not language practice. The primary goal is winning the game.
That shared objective lowers the affective filter immensely. Unlike a formal class or a stressful restaurant situation, the language acquisition is secondary, organic, and therefore far more enjoyable and sustainable for you, the learner.
You're forced to communicate essential information rapidly. Look out, need help over here, retrieve the item, which builds that rapid response fluency.
And the vocabulary is so specialized. You learn technical game terms, tactile commands, and interjections that you would simply never encounter in a classroom setting.
And the social outcome is huge. By collaborating daily, learners often form these long-lasting, fun friendships with natives, which guarantees daily practice outside of the game environment as well.
They often transition into those low-pressure WhatsApp chats we were talking about earlier. You create this sustained, highly motivated social network centered on a shared interest.
It's true. When the pressure is removed and the objective is shared enjoyment and teamwork, language barriers just tend to fall away rapidly. The only necessary warning the source provided
I know this one.
was ensuring the learner doesn't accidentally pick up loads of swear words along the way.
A highly probable outcome in online gaming, I'd say, but maybe a necessary trade-off for achieving rapid, authentic daily fluency and gaining acceptance within a native-speaking peer group. Learning the authentic, if occasionally salty, interjections of a language is often a sign of true integration.
That's a very diplomatic way to put it. Okay, so we've covered all 12 incredibly detailed pathways to daily fluency. We've ranged from the culinary precision of Nigella Lawson's kitchen to the high-quality debate found in the subreddits of Reddit and the high-stakes financial accountability of the Lingoda Marathon.
And the core philosophy here, it's not passive study. It is transformation through consistent, high-impact integration.
That transformation comes from integrating a handful or maybe just a couple of these specific tailored ideas into your daily life.
It does. We presented variety because the key is choosing what suits your existing life and your personality best.
Whether your affinity is for culinary adventures, forced digital hacks, high commitment structure, solitary reflection, or pure play, the material overwhelmingly shows that consistent, enjoyable daily exposure is just. It's non-negotiable.
And if you are the learner looking for that quick, thorough knowledge, you have to remember that this is a process of growth. The source material ended with this humorous, self-aware metaphor, referencing language skills evolving over time and asking, what is this Pokemon?
I love that.
It's great, isn't it? The implication is that learning a language is not a linear progression, but a series of distinct, measurable evolutions triggered by specific environmental inputs.
And so we leave you with this final provocative thought. If constant daily interaction is the required nutrient to trigger that next language evolution, that next level of your skill, which of these 12 environments will you choose today to become your personal lab for discovery?
What specific intentional environment, be it the foreign supermarket, a Reddit thread, or that private diary, will you choose to engage with, ensuring you move from recognition to application?
Until next time, keep digging deeper into the systems that shape your world.